things that we believe strongly in is giving back to the communities where we work and live. That takes on many different shapes and forms. One of them is in contributing insights back to the community. You see, we sit in an interesting vantage point in that we work with hundreds of clients across many different industry segments, solving some of the world's most complex technical and business challenges. So we learn a lot. So it's important for us to regularly contribute to publications like the Business Journal and others to share that knowledge. Tony's really taken that to heart. He's been one of the most prolific writers of our entire senior leadership team for the past couple of years. So much so that you could literally compile a book of his writings, and I think he did, which is why we're here today. So it's a joy to have him here today. He's our Chief Marketing Officer. He's worked in marketing and business roles for multi-million, billion-dollar corporations, and has helped Y&L grow leaps and bounds over these past several years. So join me in welcoming Tony to the podium.
All right, good afternoon. Everybody enjoying their lunches okay? Good, good. You paid $44 for the lunch and $1 to see me, so no pressure on me, right? All right, so again, just to kind of recap a little bit about the book itself, and everybody's going to get a free copy as they leave today. And it really is about knowledge sharing. I'm not charging anything for the books, and we're not charging anything to download the book on our website either, because there are just so many important topics that are being talked about now in terms of not just IT, information technology, but also marketing and blending with IT, that I felt that just, we all felt it was important just to share that knowledge. And hopefully you'll get something out of that. A lot of times you go to these things and you want to just get one nugget, that was worth your hour of time. So hopefully you're going to get more than one. So with that, the main goal again of the book was to demystify various IT topics for business people. So you've probably heard a lot of these terms. You might know a little about some or a lot about some, but nothing about others. But anything from business intelligence or digital transformation, digital disruption, IoT, IIoT, website heuristics. We've got all these great, wonderful terms that are floating around out there, and it's kind of a shame that really only the IT department knows what any of them mean. So, especially since everything on that list are actually business tools. So we're going to kind of go into them a little bit more. And we're going to go at a pretty quick pace. So I know I've got an hour to talk about a 100-page book. So you may not have to read it after I'm done. Just go ahead. All right, we're going to start off with millennials. So, apologies in advance to all millennials in attendance and live streaming this. It's going to be a little rough at the beginning, but you'll make it through this. It'll be okay. So we've all, I'm taking my ball and going home. So that's kind of some of the perception of millennials in terms of the fact that if they don't like where they work, who they work for, what they're working on, the work environment, they're out the door. So, and as a matter of fact, 56% of millennials only stay in a job for 2 years, which is an incredibly high turnover rate. And not so much concern maybe back in my generation was, well, you've got to stay in that job for 4 to 5 years, otherwise you look like you're a job hopper and all this kind of stuff. That doesn't so much apply nowadays. Next thing, get off my couch. So you got these kids just laying around all the time. Well, there's partially some reason for why that happens. First of which is the fact that the average marriage age back in 1940 was 20 to 21 years old. Now that's bumped up to 27 years old. So these kids are sticking around longer. Also, 54% of college students live at home, which is up from 43% just 4 years ago. That's a huge leap. And the main reason for that is because of continuously increasing college costs. So you have a lot of young people, millennials, rightly so, doing their first 2 years at a community college just to knock all their basic requirements out of the way and then transferring to a 4-year college to get their degree. And it's a huge difference in cost. They can go for, a year of college for, $3,000 at a community college versus $12,000 or $66,000 at a private college. And then, of course, you still have the ones that just like their meals made and their laundry done and that kind of stuff. All right, so millennial traits. And interestingly enough, this wasn't a bunch of 40, 50-year-olds saying what they thought of millennials. This is actually the percent of millennials who say this about themselves and their own generation. And this is from Pew Research. So you have things such as at the top being self-absorbed, wasteful, greedy, yet environmentally conscious and idealistic and hardworking. So it's just an interesting kind of contrast. I don't know how you can be wasteful and environmentally conscious at the same time. But this is how they kind of view themselves. I won't go through the whole list. One of the other things, I'm not going to let you cheat and read the next slide. One of the other things that we did is at the most recent In a Tech event, we had a panel of millennials up on stage, and we really started asking them about what's their preferred work environment, how do they want to be spoken to, how do they want to be dealt with, what are their expectations. And we walked away with some really interesting things that just kind of genuinely came out of them, including the first one, which I just can't believe, but it's interesting, and that's end everything you send with them with an emoticon. That's a little smiley face, little frowny face, all that kind of stuff, because they really want to understand the emotion that you're conveying in a message. So, and rightfully so, a lot of times we read into messages and we don't know if our boss just said something positive, negative, middle of the road to us. So for example, you could just, they could say, well, is it okay if I do this? And you say, fine. Well, how did you mean fine? Did you mean fine or did you mean fine? So, something to pick up on. Not a bad little idea. Text first before calling. They get a lot of phone calls. They're on social all the time. They're very busy. They're doing what they need to do. And if a phone call comes through from you, they may not pick it up. They may just say, well, if it's important enough, they'll send me a text or they'll send me an email about it. So a lot of them said, yeah, it's better to text first before calling. Let us know, do you have time for a call? Is now a good time? And then your call will actually go through. Allow device multitasking during meetings. Okay, that goes against all the traditional sense of you come to a conference room, you sit in the room, you pay attention to the speaker, you take notes, you're engaged with what they're saying. But a lot of time for millennials, they're multitasking during those meetings. They are paying attention to what's being said, and based upon what you're talking about, or especially if you're soliciting for opinions on things, they're Googling information, they're looking at stuff, and they're offering up good, valid ideas. So it's not that they're being rude as much as that is their way of actively participating, or part of their way of actively participating. Another thing is email is too formal. One young lady actually said it's like the hand of God coming down. The email has to be perfect. It has to be a good sentence structure, no fragments, no typos, they have to put so much time into writing the perfect email, whereas they would prefer to communicate via other methods that are a little bit more lax, such as being able to Slack information, Slack files to each other, use other ways of communicating that are a bit less formal, but they still get the message across, the idea across, and things move on and move faster. They do like the office environment to be an extension of their home environment. Who wouldn't, right? These are not necessarily bad things, by the way. Sure, who doesn't like free food in the break room and open office environments, ping pong table, a workout room, some relaxing spaces? They don't feel they feel like cubicles are actually very stifling. They want to sit in a fabric box all day long, shut off from the rest of the world. Now, a lot of us, when we were, some of us, as we grew up, they said, there's your cubicle, deal with it. You're sitting there, that's where you sit. Well, millennials kind of push against the norm, but in a positive way. They're saying, why do we have to sit in a fabric box all day long? Why are we limited to other things such as restricting their website access? So they're Googling information, they're coming up with things, they're searching it. They don't have the old Encyclopedia Britannicas to go reference. They've got these devices for their information. So a lot of times companies are overly restrictive. Obviously you want to protect the organization from anybody accessing something that's inappropriate for the work environment, but that doesn't mean you shut down all of the sites so they can't do their work and look into things. They prefer online meetings versus face-to-face or face-to-group. They want to be able to work from wherever. So long as they're getting their work done, does it really matter if they're sitting at the Riverwalk doing it, or if they go and they go to the gym and they work out for 2 hours and come back and get everything knocked out? It shouldn't matter. And the last one, which I thought was really interesting, was the need to make work, for some people, make work into a cause. It doesn't mean working for a cause. Everybody doesn't have to go and join the Red Cross, even though that would be very nice. It's actually turning your job into an actual cause. The example I'll give you is one of the ladies had said, well, I get up every morning and I really don't like going to work, and I work in accounting and it's really boring and it's not what I want to do, it's not where I want to end up. She goes, but I changed what my outlook was on the job by saying to myself, you know what I'm doing is I'm working with these small business owners, doing their books for them, and they're employed, their families are getting a benefit from them, all of their employees are working for them. So my job is to do everything that I can to keep those businesses afloat. So she made her job into her cause. And now she can jump out of bed in the morning and she has a reason to be there, and she thinks that it's beneficial, and in fact, of course, it is. So more on the positive side. Millennials generally hate bureaucracy and office politics. I know we all do, and we have to play it from time to time, but they just have no room for it. They just don't understand it. They don't understand why we get involved in this. The backstabbing, the finger pointing, the one-upmanship, all that kind of stuff, it's all garbage and they don't need to have any of it. 8 to 5 evokes laughter. That's old school, So if they want to wake up at 5:30 in the morning and go work out at the gym for an hour and then come into work and work a few hours, and they'll get everything done, but they want to do more of the things on their terms and to fit their lifestyles. They have a high degree of individualism, as well as being very highly entrepreneurial. I haven't talked to one that doesn't want to open their own business someday. Now, they also do have significantly more student debt than actually baby boomers and Gen Xers combined. They have huge amounts of student loan debt sitting on their shoulders, and they know that they're going to have to work extremely hard and move extremely fast to satisfy that debt. They are the get things done generation. So they are unafraid to use technologies and apps to find out what they need to find out. They also trust their online network for product reviews. So where we might go ask our friend, hey, have you been to the nail salon on 5th Street or something like that? They don't do that. They go online, they see what everybody said about that salon, and they make up their mind based upon those reviews. They understand the importance and impact of social media. We're going to get into social media in a minute here, but they understand that if they're running a small business and they start getting some negative social reviews, how devastating of an impact that could be, far more costly to their business than word of mouth ever was. They do like to tackle problems. They see them almost as a game, something that they want to solve. They're not bothered by failure. They actually see them as a learning experience. They don't take it on their shoulders, I'm going to go off into the corner and cry about the fact that I failed. It's more of a, now at least I know what not to do, and they move on. And they may even usher in the idea of a free agent for hire. Whereas they may, go to work for one company and do some things for them, but then might decide, you know what, I'm going to pick up this other stuff on the side, I'm going to moonlight, I'm going to do these other things, or I might just become a consultant and just work for a bunch of different people doing a bunch of different things. They have no problem with that. Okay, enough about millennials. So now we're going to move on to the next topic. And they are disjointed, they don't have any kind of a pace to them, so we're just going to fly through some of these. So IoT and IIoT. So IoT is the information of things, or the Internet of Things, sorry, and IIoT is the industrial Internet of Things. So the Internet of Things really is about the internetworking of physical devices, vehicles, buildings, and other items that are embedded with sensor technology and network connectivity to collect and exchange data. Whether that data and that connectivity is useful for the individual in their home, or it's something that's being collected and reporting back to the company that actually provided the product so they can do product improvements and other things. That's what it's for. And they even say that there are going to be approximately 30 billion sensors in objects, most of which in your own home and car, by 2020. So some of the things, and you've seen the commercials for the family that's sitting at dinner and the kids sitting there turning the lights on and off in the house, and the old guy with the dog is freaking out because the lights are going on and off. And you can change your thermostat and do all of those kinds of things. Those are just kind of examples of where they're at now. Now, the industrial Internet of Things is kind of similar, but it's for the benefit of large corporations. So it helps them with cost reductions, improving efficiencies, and proactive maintenance. So proactive maintenance and or predictive maintenance, a quick little story about that. There's the reason why I got the guy flipping burgers there is because Y&L had worked with this very large retail franchisor to embed sensor technology into all of their stovetop burners. And the reason for that is because when a burner goes down or the entire stove goes down, they're out of production. You got a whole long line of people waiting for their double cheeseburgers that they got to wait twice as long because one of the burners is out or one of the stoves are out. So for reasons for customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, and otherwise profitability, revenue, they decided that they were going to embed sensor technology into all of their burners. Now, what did that do? That provided information back to the organization to tell them when a particular burner in a particular location was actually not heating like it was supposed to, or if actually the entire unit was starting to have issues and problems, so that they could dispatch somebody to go and actually take care of them proactively. So, you know, everything might be going great, and then all of a sudden the technician comes into your place and says, you know what, I gotta fix one of these burners, or, you know, I might have to actually change out one of these units. Why? Everything's going great. Well, you think it's going great, but we know it's not going to go great in the next 3 days. So that's an example of being very proactive with this kind of technology. Another quick example of this would be a large farming manufacturing company that installed sensor technology with an accompanying mobile app that allowed the growers and or farmers to view nozzle by nozzle and row by row sprayer details. They were able to tell a whole bunch of things through their app. So before, when they would look across their fields, standing on the top of their tractor cab, and is there any shift because the wind just kicked up, and wow, you know, I sprayed the entire field, why is a third of it, you know, dying of bugs? Well, it's because, you know, there was product drift at some particular point in time. They can tell all of that from the comfort of their tractor cab with their handheld device. They can see exactly what's going on and then make adjustments right there onto their phone and adjust all of their equipment that's out in the field versus, you know, manually going out there and doing it. So that's just two quick examples of where IoT and IIoT are headed. Now, of course, you have all these wonderful sensors in all your devices all across your home. Now, the thing that we also have to look at is consumer safety and also consumer information. Now you think, okay, privacy is obviously the thing, you know, they're taking all of this information about all the devices within my home and everything. What are they doing with it and the whole Big Brother stuff? But the more scary part is actually what it could actually do to people that are utilizing, you know, equipment or otherwise that have these sensors enabled, such as sensor-enabled car components, such as door locks, trunks, and engines, have been found to be hackable. Could you imagine driving in your car and all of a sudden it decides to shut off? Or, you know, your door's unlocked? And then also very directly, life-threatening assaults are possible as well, as far as, you know, sensor-enabled pacemakers, insulin pumps, implantable cardioverter defibrillators could be shut down. Let's say somebody hacks into one of these companies and they have their sensor devices enabled and all sorts of people with pacemakers and shuts them all down all at once one day. So it's not to be too gloom and doom, but it's the fact that we shouldn't necessarily outpace common sense. You know, so as excited we are as about technology and all these great innovations and let's put it everywhere, we have to also kind of say, you know, okay, but there have to be rules, there has to be protection in place along the way. Digital transformation. Okay, it's a huge undertaking, just like our buddy up there. What was his name from the movie? oh, I can't remember, the funny guy. But anyway, he gets stuck in the middle there and he's trying to turn that cab around. You're not just automating a few processes. What?
Austin Powers.
Austin Powers, thank you. Yes, that's Austin Powers trying to turn around in a tight situation. So it's not just about automating a few processes internally, it's a lot more than that. It requires a culture shift in the organization that embraces change and technology, an environment that fosters creativity. So an example of which would be Yellow Cab, which interestingly enough, 3 years ago, created a taxi hailing app. They created it, it was done. But then, in their brilliance inside of a boardroom somewhere, they decided that nobody would use it. So why launch it? They'll still call if they need a cab. Well, obviously we know what Uber and Lyft did to them. They digitally disrupted them. Another quick story, Tractor Supply, 1 pound bag of mealworms goes for $19.99. This is actually Sean's story that I'm stealing because he likes to feed chickens other than play golf. I don't know why, but that's what he likes. So he went online and he looked up a coupon because he always goes to Tractor Supply, gets their coupon, goes in the store, buys his 1 pound bag of mealworms. Well, because he put that information into his search engine when he was looking for it, he was remarketed based on his search criteria. So later on when he was on Facebook, off in the right-hand side, bang, there's an offer from Amazon.com for a 5 pound bag for $19.95. What did he do? He bought the 5 pound bag. And by the way, that's 1/5 of the cost of what he was paying. Tractor Supply was digitally disrupted by the company supplying into and selling their products through Amazon. They took that business away. Domino's Pizza, interestingly enough, 400 of their 800 employees at their corporate headquarters do software development and analytics. Half of their corporate headquarters does that. That's why they have those apps on their phone where they know your pizza and they know what you like and they know what your grandpa likes and everybody else, and they just are all over that because they want to digitally disrupt and not be digitally disrupted. So the benefits of a digital workforce, there's a lot of them. Obviously, you're improving the customer experience, you're improving your operational efficiencies, communications, the morale, fostering a culture of innovation, improved competitiveness, market disruption, which is probably one of the main reasons why people get into this, and the integration of social applications and systems. All right, this is going to take a few minutes. Case in point, there's a large Texas licensing agency that we worked with, and they were completely manual with every single thing that they did. They processed paper license requests for 16,000 establishments. They had legacy systems that required duplicate data entry. And we know what happens. If you have one human being putting in information, then you have a second one, you just compiled your problems and your opportunity for error as far as data is concerned. They on their website would say all these different types of things. So if you wanted a license for this and a license for that, or you wanted to add this onto your license, you had to add these two numbers together. And by the way, don't forget tax and all this other stuff. Guess what percentage of people got their checks wrong when they mailed in their paper checks? Most of them. And then they only accepted manual paper checks, by the way. Obviously, the forms that they sent in contained a lot of errors. And when we had asked them, have you automated any part of your process for your customers? They said, absolutely, yeah, we actually did just recently. And we're like, great, what did you do? Well, we put in a printable PDF on our website. No, that's not automation. So obviously they were still, you print out the PDF, but you hand fill it out, you write out the check, you send it in. So they had hundreds of daily application calls, people calling up because they wanted to know, okay, what's the status of my application? I sent it in a week ago, and then, they had to actually dig through manual papers, a pile on different people's desks, trying to find that one particular application or search through file cabinets, and then try to get back to the individual. So obviously there were a lot of issues that they needed to cover. So we took them through a digital transformation process. What did that include? That included the initiative had to begin from the top down. Senior management said, we got to change things. This ain't working, hasn't been working. We interviewed their employees that were part of all of the different processes. We also interviewed all of their top customers to find out what was the experience like, what would be the preferred experience. We mapped all of their application flow. Who touched it? Where did it go? Where did it end up? How did you find it? Everything. Determined the internal activities then that we could automate, and then determined the customer activities that should be automated as well. Obviously, we estimated what the time and cost savings would be, came up with a budget, and most importantly, after everything was said and done and implemented, we trained the employees on the new application. You don't want to get that far and then fumble. So the new application, the new environment, it was a dual-facing application, meaning that what the customer saw, the employee saw. Okay, so if you called up and said, I'm looking at this thing on the screen, they're looking at the same darn thing that you're looking at. There was systematic error checking. So dates, phone numbers, zip codes, social security numbers all have a certain number of digits. So at least look to see if all the digits were correct, the number of digits were correct. Then it was integrated with USPS data for address correction. So it automatically corrected the addresses. It was integrated with Texas.gov for payment processing, no more paper checks. So the amount that was stated to them online was the exact amount, and they could charge their credit cards for those payments. It was integrated with DPS for name verification, that the name that they're using is actually a valid, true name. It was integrated with the FBI for background checks, if that was necessary based upon what they were applying for. And the employees then only reviewed a file. It only came into their queue after all of the information was perfect, the payment was made and accepted, and then they were just going to look at it at the very, very end when it was set for them. It was also supported on multiple browsers and mobile devices, so if you're driving in your car and you want to pull over and renew your license, you could do it. You know, there was online application status, so that people knew at all times where their application was in the process. And there were also automatic email notifications for reminders, confirmations, renewal notices, deficiency letters, all things that they used to manually print out and send in the mail. Gone. The results? Inquiry calls decreased by 90%. Phones aren't ringing anymore. People can actually focus and get their work done. Within 5 months, 65% of all the payments were processed online. No more paper checks. 12,000 applications were processed in a 2-week period of time, which used to take 6 months. Customer employee satisfaction went through the roof, obviously, and that agency was digitally transformed. Next topic. Nearshore, meaning the United States, offshore or near shore. This is always a battle within corporations as far as how much of their business, if any, should we outsource? Mainly IT development. So one bad experience can cause a company to throw the baby out with the bathwater, refusing to absolutely never again outsource. But the savvy company is going to know when they should outsource, what they should outsource, and where they should outsource. So we're going to hit that at kind of a very high level. Real quick example is one of our large clients decided that they were going to outsource everything to India. They let all of their developers go. They outsourced everything. And number one, you can't outsource your internal problems, okay? Nobody's going to clean up those. You got to clean up those yourself. But anyway, they outsourced all the work, and it didn't quite turn out for them the way that they had expected. They thought everything was going to come back perfect with a nice little red bow on top. Doesn't work that way. And so they just did a next knee-jerk reaction, and they yanked everything back to the United States, rehired everybody, and they're never going to go back there again. Well, you kind of have to know how to work with these different outsourcing opportunities so you don't make these type of knee-jerk reactions within your corporation. So what are some of the outsourcing benefits? Obviously, cost savings is one of the first ones, but that, again, depends on what you outsource, and hopefully what you outsource doesn't require a significant amount of rework back and forth, because then your cost savings are gone. You only pay for the time that's spent on a project. So unlike regular employees where you're paying them whether they're working or they're twiddling their thumbs, you're only paying for people that are actually actively doing something on your project, and when they're done, they move on to another project or whatever, but you're not paying for them. You have access to the latest technologies without having to purchase them. These companies are up on the latest technologies. They're using the latest technologies. Software updates and maintenance can be done during your downtime. You're fast at home asleep, and they're doing all your maintenance and upgrades and uploads and all of that kind of stuff. And then business expansion is also, this is an interesting one to me, and that's business expansion without compromising quality or overtaxing employees. A lot of times you think, we want to make an acquisition of this company and bring them into the fold, and that's going to require some IT work, or we want to create a new business unit and that's going to take some IT work. Well, think about outsourcing when it comes to being able to expand your existing team relatively inexpensively. Again, you have to be selective at what you have them do, but you can add on that new division. You can do these things without overtaxing your existing employees. What to offshore? Now, when we talk about offshore, we're talking far, far away. We're talking China, Japan, those types of places. Generally, what you should offshore are simple, well-defined projects with a fixed price that don't require creative solutions. Let me expand on that real quick. Most of the offshore companies that we've worked with, the way that they're structured is that the people that work for them follow the rules. They follow the requirements, right or wrong. So if you send something over there and they're looking at it and they're like, boy, this isn't really the right way to do this, or this is probably going to, doesn't matter, they're going to do it. They don't question it, they don't raise issues, they just do exactly what they're told to do. You give them bad stuff, it's going to come back bad. And the same thing for creative. They're not there to come up with your creative solution. They're just there to do what you ask them to do. They can though develop inexpensive prototypes, and they do have large pools of talent in standard technologies such as SAP, .NET, and Java. And they also, interestingly enough, have pools of talent in older technologies such as AS400. Try to find somebody that still knows how to do AS400 here in San Antonio. Pretty darn difficult. But they actually have created those pools knowing that those older technologies still need to be maintained. So let's talk about nearshore. Now we're talking about the Costa Ricas, the Mexicos, the closer in types of companies. So they share similar time zones, which is nice. It makes it easier for conference calls and flying out there for a meeting, and especially in comparison to offshore or far offshore, which could be an 18 to 24 hour time difference. So if you don't like being on conference calls at 3:30 in the morning, you might want to consider this. The other thing too is they have very similar cultures. They are idea and solution driven, meaning if you provide them with information and they think something's wrong, they'll come back and go, have you thought of doing it this way? I think I can foresee a problem down the road. So they're similar into how the US would work on projects in that way. They have language proficiencies. English is generally their second language. Cost savings, obviously they're less expensive than the US, and India is also starting to creep up as well in terms of their costs, especially as we've done so much business with India and their consultants. And the talent pool, one thing that I found was really interesting is in São Paulo, Brazil, it has the second largest community of Java programmers outside of the United States. So here's a few suggestions. Manage your projects from within the United States. Don't completely outsource everything. Keep the management, at least, of everything here. Have strong knowledge transfer between the US and outsourced development teams. Document your issues, your resolutions, scope creep, change orders, all of that kind of stuff, and then conduct a post-mortem to determine areas for improvement for the next project. Outsource simple projects that fit within a larger project. You might have a big project, but you might decide, you know what, it makes sense for me so let's say that these are things that just need to be done, okay? Anybody can do them, it just need to be done. You might send those to offshore. Then you have some other ones that are going to require a little bit of massaging and that kind of stuff. Then you send those potentially to nearshore. And then other ones, maybe that touch your legacy databases or your homegrown technologies, you keep them closer to you and do that. But you still have control over the whole picture. So it's almost like farming certain things out at the right time to the right people. And then, if you do that, you'll actually understand how to get and derive benefit from that. All right, just switch into marketers for a few seconds here. Chief digital officers, chief marketing officers, marketers in general. Used to be called MarCom, marketing communications. Probably a lot of us remember that term. Well, that's changed to MarTech. MarTech is marketing technologies. So the marketer of the future can really be found at the intersection of marketing and IT. So on the traditional standpoint, marketers, focused on product, place, price, and promotion, the 4 Ps, focus groups, R&D, pilot testing, patents, customer experience, those types of things. But the marketer of, I'm not going to say tomorrow because these things are here today, the marketer of today also has to be savvy in understanding how to leverage business intelligence, website analytics, social listening and response, SEO, SEM, multivariable testing, data cleansing, website heuristics, and predictive modeling. So their bucket just got a lot bigger, but a lot more cool tools to work with as well. So as we go forward in the future, marketers are going to be a lot more scientific, digital, and what they're going to be doing is going to be highly actionable. So we're going to cover a couple of things in this section. We're going to talk website heuristics. We're going to talk about online social listening, response, and reporting. We're going to touch just a little bit on video pay-per-click. We're not going to handle all of SEO and SEM and remarketing and all of that, but we're going to hit on one part that I think you might find of interest. We're going to talk a little bit about multivariable testing and business intelligence. So the first thing we're going to go through is, again, website heuristics. So what are exactly website heuristics? And that is really determining what your customer experience is online. Now, internally, and I'll speak for myself, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer, I think everything that I do for the customer is absolutely flawless. There's absolutely nothing that can be improved upon. It's perfect. No, of course not. So it's really nice to have somebody from an outside perspective that knows how to look at a website and come back and tell you, you really shouldn't talk about yourself that much. You should talk more, you should say more you. You should do more of this. You should do less of that. It's confusing when they try to go from here to there. So that outside perspective. So again, it identifies usability problems in the user interface design. It judges the user interface's compliance with recognized usability principles. It's faster and less expensive than doing a full-blown usability test. And it should be conducted by a certified usability analyst. And what you're going to get as a result is you're going to get a written report of the findings and the recommendations of everything they found. I had this done for our website and they came back with a 62-page report. So you think you're doing everything right until you get a 62-page report telling you otherwise. So it's good stuff. There are 4 key areas of focus that they focus on: the structure of the site, the navigation, the content, and marketing and branding. So I'm not going to go into deep depth on all of those 4. I'm just going to give a few little highlights. So let's just talk about website design evaluation, just the design itself. So they look for things such as, is it focused on the user and their tasks, not just on the technology that you chose to use? Does it consider the function first and the presentation later? Does it conform to the user's view of the tasks? Even to the point where would the user feel that what you're asking me for is necessary? Why are you asking me for this type of information? Why are you having me go through these steps? It's designed for the common case, the average individual's experience. Does it not distract from the user's goals? You know, the user might have a particular goal and then you put a bunch of little things in between there and distract them. Does it facilitate learning? Does it deliver information, not just data? And is it designed for responsiveness? That's what we all want. That's the reason why we have websites. We want somebody to respond to what we're putting up there. So we'll go through a really quick, very simple example. Fixing a consumption page. Now you might be looking at this going, yep, it's got a picture, it's got some information. What's wrong with it? Well, add a video. Videos convert people at a 3 times higher rate than text. People are lazy. They'd rather watch than read. Add testimonials. Give yourself a little bit of credibility. Somebody said something good about you, put it up there. Add trust icons, so you can see that you're being endorsed by a particular organization or organizations. Add in-page navigation. Tell them where to go next. So you said, if you like this page, you'll probably like going over here and looking at this other stuff. Add a strong heading and a subheading. Tell them where you're at, where they're at, and what they're going to learn. Use bullets for scannability. Nobody wants to read a novella. Nobody wants to read big, huge blocks of text. They just want to scan, see if this is what they want, and if it's not, they move on. If it is, they read more. And then if they want to read more, give them more to read, but make it simple for them to read. And then give them a call to action. There's so many pages where you just read all this information, like, wow, this is great. Now where do I go? The contact us page, or what? Just give it to them right then and there. All right, jumping on. Social media monitoring, response, and analytics. So All right, some staggering social statistics. 61% of people that are on social media check it within 5 minutes of waking up. First thing they do, they haven't even crawled out of bed yet, they're reaching for the phone. 75% do it within 15 minutes of going to bed every night. By 2020, 3 billion people globally with the highest penetration in the US are going to have, 78% are going to have more than one social media profile. I think most of us probably in this room already have that. And the average user spends 118 minutes per day on social media. They're on those devices constantly. Here's what happens every 60 seconds, if you can believe it. Every 60 seconds, 500 hours of video are uploaded. 150,000 emails are being sent. 3.3 million Facebook posts. I don't know who works anymore. I mean, this is crazy. Every 60 seconds. So you look at these numbers and you're like, wow, everybody's online. Everybody's looking for information. Everybody's also contributing to the information being presented. So, what did we do in the past? Well, if a customer had an issue, they'd call into the call center, right? And then we got real sophisticated and did online chat. Okay, people are going to tell us because they're online, they're going to tell us what they're thinking. Well, they're not doing that so much anymore. Instead of telling you what their problems are, they're just going to tell everybody what their problems are. So again, who's watching the barn? None of these people are on the phone. Notice that? They're all sitting on their computers and they're all out there responding to information that they're seeing or something that they experienced that they did or didn't like. So, remember the movie Misery? I'm dating myself now. But misery does love company. Okay, so again, instead of calling you or going through your online chat to complain, they're going to everybody, anytime, anywhere, any device, any social media platform. And most importantly, don't think your competitors aren't listening, because they are. They're listening because they're picking up ideas that your customers are leaving behind. They're finding out what their pain points are. If your stores are not open on time, if you don't have a location somewhere, they're taking that all in. So it's not just about you. You also have to worry about what your competitors are seeing based on customers and what they're saying. Here's an interesting example. I should have took out the name of the top. But anyway, here's somebody who actually gave a top 10 list of why not to go to a particular restaurant. You talk about somebody that's not happy. They took a time to create a top 10 David Letterman list. Okay, so not only did they take a top 10 Letterman list, they really rubbed the salt in the wounds and actually provided me with some credibility to this section, because Paul doesn't understand customer service or social media. And by the way, Paul never responded because, in fact, he doesn't understand social media. And to make things worse, he even pointed to Wendy and Adam's comments on their one-star reviews too. So if you didn't have enough from these 10, go and look at theirs as well. So pretty damaging stuff. Now, let's take a picture of somebody that did do something right. Not surprisingly, Elon Musk. So 24 minutes after this post, Elon Musk responded to this message. And that is asking if they could install, can you guys program the car, once in park, to move the back seat and raise the steering wheel? He came back with, good point, we'll add that to all our cars in one of the upcoming software releases. Boom, done. What did he do when he did that? He headed off a complaint before others joined on to the bandwagon. He was incredibly responsive within 24 minutes. He responded genuinely. It wasn't a robotic response. It wasn't, thank you very much, we'll take that under advisement, which everybody knows is a blow-off. Captured a product improvement idea. He publicized it as a new feature, and then he thanked the customer. Perfect, perfect. So why is this important? Well, 67% of people have used a company's social media site for asking questions. 42% expect the response within an hour. 57% expect the same response time at night and on weekends as during normal business hours. And 24 to 40% of customers who are working with a company that engages and responds over social media will actually buy more from that company. You have to have both proactive and reactive content. Proactively, you want to create content that drives likes, views, reactions, shares, all that wonderful stuff. But then you also have to have reactive content, actively listening for cues and joining in the conversation with customers. So how do you do all this? Well, you have to start with establishing a social program within the company. You have to create a cohesive social media strategy, compelling creative content, a carefully executed social ad spend, consistent engagement and customer care, and everything has to be backed by social analytics. So you've invested maybe millions into your call center. Well, this is where people are now, so you have to ante up. You can't ignore it. All right, jumping on. Online video marketing. Of course, customers have short attention spans. They want information quickly. A video brands your product with a visual medium. A 30-second video can contain a ton of information about your company. It ranks higher than plain text sites and text ads, and it converts at a 3 times higher rate than them as well. Why should you jump into video? YouTube, again, as we saw just a little bit earlier, is the second largest search engine in the world. As a matter of fact, it has more searches than Bing, Yahoo, and AOL combined. It also can be hyper-targeted to meet your audience and where they're at. There are 2 types of video pay-per-click ads. There's in-stream and in-display. In-stream are the ads that you get before the video you want to see, and in-display are the ones on the right-hand side of the screen. So it's quickly about in-stream. They're charged if somebody views past the skip feature. Here's the important part. That little bit of video before the skip feature is 5 seconds long. And how many times have you actually watched that little video and that little 5 seconds and it told you absolutely nothing? They've got the car driving by and that's it. Or they have some beautiful swan going across a lake and it's really pretty and then the 5 seconds are over. Well, you know what, if you're gonna do this, use that 5 seconds to your benefit. Put something in there before they skip. And hopefully you'll keep them from skipping. It's targeted by the type of the video being watched. So if you have a particular product or service that goes along with something that's in the lifestyle of the customers that you have, put those videos there where they're going to see them. And they cost significantly less than search clicks. Pay-per-click and display. It's charged if the customer clicks to watch. These are the ads that are over in the right-hand side in the search or up next areas. It does cost less than in-stream. And the other thing too is that you have your little billboard there for free. So whatever your picture is in your tiny little statement, it's there. Jumping on, multivariable testing. Now we're going to get into a little bit of science. This is marketing research on steroids. Okay, so a lot of companies have done all of the obvious things in terms of, oh, we know that if we do this, this will happen, or that'll happen, as far as selling more products or creating more awareness, those types of things. And it's really for companies that have exhausted all of the conventional, typical ways to generate business. This is going a little bit deeper. What MVT is, multivariable testing, you're exactly doing that. You're testing a multitude of different variables in different combinations to find what's called a recipe for success. There's no silver bullet, but there could be a recipe, a combination of things. So what the company would do is they would identify some ideas that they want to test. They'd evaluate their impact on the business objectives. They'd statistically test the impact. And of course, they deploy the positive strategies. What's interesting, though, in MVT testing is that on average, 53% of the things that you're going to test aren't going to make any difference whatsoever. 25% are actually going to help, and 22% are going to actually hurt the company if you did them. Kind of good to know about the ones that'll hurt as well as help. So let's say that you have 30 improvement ideas, 30 different things that you want to test at one time. The odds are literally 1 billion to 1 as to already having the answer. 30 ideas to test in different combinations could take a billion different iterations, 1 billion different possible combinations. However, through MVT testing, you can do it in 32 combinations. And I'm going to show you an example of how that's possible. Okay. Let's say that we have 17 different factors that we're going to test for a large retailer that has 20 different stores. Okay, they want to move that needle. So they maybe want to initiate a management bonus plan. Maybe they want to do product demonstrations in the store. Maybe they want to offer different types of financing. They've got all these different things that they've identified that they want to try. Now there's two different columns. There's a status quo and there's something to test. Status quo is we're just going to keep doing what we're doing and we're not going to change it. Or to test, we're going to do something different in that category. So let's say management bonus payout. The status quo is just keep it the way it is. What we're going to test are more frequent payouts. Does that get management to put more, their foot on the gas more with their sales and that kind of thing? And these are some of the other factors. Now, here's what a screening design looks like. So you have all of your different recipes and all your 20 different stores. 20 different stores obviously down the left. So think of it as a bunch of levers that you can either keep them where they're at or you could push them up, or keep them where they're at and push them up. That's exactly what's being shown across all of these. So let's say in the first store, they are going to do something different. That's why they have the plus. But in the second store, they're going to do something different, and that's why, or they're going to do the status quo, and that's why it's in a minus. And you see by having 20 stores and all of these different variations, they are literally going to test the effect of every individual idea in concert with other ideas, and then go through a process of elimination to find those activities that perform the best. So after doing this test, they found out some things. They found out different things that actually helped. They found out things that actually hurt. And then they found out things that made no difference whatsoever. So why waste your time on them? Here's what that actually turned out to be. So in that first section, the first section off to the left, you have what their benchmark was, where they started from. That's what they were experiencing in terms of sales. Then they went through the MVT test, the middle part, and they found they had a 23% improvement based upon all the different types of combinations. Then they took out all the combinations that didn't move the needle or was going to negatively impact them, and they implemented only 4 of those ideas. And that's what shot the needle up, and that's what kept it up at that higher rate. So that's what MVT testing is all about. Business intelligence. Your data knows more than it's telling you. And I believe that there are 3 different ways to grow a company. You can grow a company organically, you can grow a company through acquisition, which we all know, but you can also do it by harvesting the gold nuggets within your own data if you know what to look for and how to look. So companies in general with their data, they want to manage all their data, leverage information as an asset, integrate applications and services, store the data expensively, and access data anytime from anywhere. I'm going to take a minute to talk about a data detective. What's a data detective? A data detective sits between a data analyst on one extreme and a data science on the other extreme. And what makes them very truly different is that they completely understand the business. They understand operations, they understand marketing, they understand sales, they understand manufacturing. They understand how the business operates and the business goals. It makes sense to them. The best part is they also understand IT, and they understand data, and they understand analytics. They should be the marketer's best friend in the organization. They look for anomalies, create hypotheses, run data models, test data integrity, derive conclusions, and present the insights to the business. And they can find solutions. They can find nuggets within pricing. What's our pricing sweet spot for our product line? Manufacturing efficiencies, new business opportunities. You know what? Based upon the way that we're going and where our sales are at, we should acquire another company like this, or we should acquire a complementary company to our top product lines. Predictive modeling, where should we go next? And then also what-if scenarios. So if you say, you know what, we don't want to really necessarily pull a trigger on this new division until we run some what-if scenarios and find out, is this really something that we should be doing? They can help with all of that. This is what they look like out in the wild. It's a little scary, and they're generally younger. And actually, that's Clint sitting at the table. You want to raise your hand? Okay. Yeah, well, you remember that meeting that you couldn't make it to my office for? That's what happens. Okay, going into a BI case study real quick. So a national retailer, they were kicking off a layaway initiative. They had data across numerous different systems. They were doing currently minimal promotional efforts, and all the data was accessible to the BI analysts. That's pretty darn important, because a lot of times, we'll go in there and they'll say, oh yeah, well you can look at this or just get a piece of this, but you can't see this and you can't see that. Well, it's really hard to come to a conclusion or create a hypothesis only based on some of the information. So the next thing was to create a hypothesis. And the hypothesis, after understanding the business expectations and what's going to be made available to them in terms of data, was that layaway customers with high dollar basket items and on-time payment history are good prospects for related goods at a discount. So what did they do? They related the applicable databases, they determined leading layaway products, they identified the right customers, and they target marketed with a promotion. So initially they took data from the different databases, the CRM, loyalty, transactional, and product databases, and they extracted information into a data mart. From that data mart, obviously the data went through a series of cleansing and governance, and it was loaded into BI and a BI analysis tool. There's tons of different tools out there, Tableau, etc. So what did they discover? They discovered they were able to find out who's buying, when, and for how much, as well as their payment history. The loyalty database was actually used to tie the coupon value back to the total cost to ensure that the gross profit margins. So if we're going to give away a coupon, let's make sure we're giving it to the right people and we're actually going to make our money on this. And the analysis also showed that 50% of loyal layaway customers opted in for emails and texts. Then the target was narrowed. Found out that PS4 and Xbox One were the top two high-cost products that were being put on layaway by loyal and payment current customers. So we created a digital coupon that we sent via text message offering a 20% off a video game if added to their layaway basket. We know these people are paying off on their baskets on a monthly basis, so they're pretty good bets. So let's go with them. What were the results? 56.7% video game sale increase in one single day. That's the power of target marketing. That's the power of understanding the secrets within your data. In summary, yes, I'm actually finished. Millennials do have some good attributes. Don't write them off. They've got great things that they can contribute and some things we should definitely pick up on and implement. Marketing has cool digital tools to work with. Unmonitored social channels can wreak havoc. There are secrets in your data, and you can win at outsourcing. And thank you for coming.